I made these flannel line jeans for my brand after about 4 months of sampling and work, and I want to explain the entire process behind it as simple as possible for you. The first step is optional in my opinion, but is to sketch. For these jeans in particular, I didn't actually sketch on paper my idea, and instead I just went through trial and error on Illustrator to just figure out my design. Which goes to show you that you don't need to be a master at drawing by any means. Like, I have friends that make fully handmade couture clothing that don't ever sketch. So number 2, the main step is to actually get on Illustrator and make your technical drawing. There are other apps out there like Procreate, but I think Illustrator is the best app for this. So let me guide you through the process of drawing a pair of jeans in Adobe Illustrator. There's obviously a lot on your screen at first, but after you familiarize yourself with the tools and the general layout, it becomes a lot more simple. The dimensions of my artboard are the same as a sheet of paper. And before we do anything, we're going to open rulers, which on MacBook is Command R. And we're going to add a guide, which is a line that lets us reflect things or line things up. And it'll become very useful later. So to do that, you just drag on the left side and kind of just center it like this. When the pink lines show up, it'll let you align them automatically and snap to it. And that should be on your first layer. So you're gonna lock that, name it guide or something, create a new layer. And now the main tool we're gonna use here is the curvature tool. We're gonna first start off with the general outline of the pants, aka like the body with like the legs. So start off on the guide itself and click it. Then while holding Alt or Option, you're gonna drag it out and wait until you see the little dash slant symbol next to the pen tool. And what that does is that it makes a new line without curving it automatically. Depending on like what silhouette you were going for, in my case it's baggy, just kind of drag it down however long and however wide you want it to be. Again, holding the Alt or Option button. And depending on how long, and depending on if you want it to be like low rise or mid or high rise, just kind of drag it up here. And obviously you can always change these down the line, but we're gonna just make this simple general layout. And after that, you can just press your V or selection tool to get out of the pen tool. And with any pair of pants and jeans, there's a slight curve from the waistband like this to accommodate for the stomach and the belly. So we're gonna just drag the middle point down a little bit like this. And you see that there are these 2 handles at the end of each point here. And we're gonna use those to make it more naturally curved like this. And once you're happy with that, you're gonna use the reflect tool or O. Click the guide itself. And while in this tool, you're gonna hold Shift and Alt to see that there's like these 2 cursor symbols. And then just drag it to the other side like this. As you can see, it perfectly reflected it to the other side. And if you have to, just go to the middle and adjust the handles a little bit so it seems more seamless. And to add the extra part of the waistband, we're gonna go into the drop down menu for this layer and just lock these 2 smaller paths and then just complete it like this. And because of the guide, it's gonna make it perfectly symmetrical like this. This is the basic premise of making a pair of pants on Illustrator. Obviously there's a lot of missing details like a complete waistband and pockets and rivets and everything. But the point of me doing this for you quickly is to show you that it's very easy once you get the hang of the pen tool itself. Let me show you the full Illustrator file of that pair of jeans I showed you earlier. As you can see, there are a lot of layers. For production, the details were slightly changed, including where the rivets are and the design of the pockets. But you can see that through this, I was able to get a very accurate product. You can see that in the middle, there are these double knee panels with darts on each corner, executed pretty well on the final production piece. 2 belt loops on each side of the waistband. These pretty intricate back pocket designs with the embroidery, and an interesting detail on the yoke, which are these embroidery lines. All the other details like the paint splatters, the back tab, the colors are going to be finished in Photoshop, but the base tech drawing itself has to be as accurate as possible. And now let's go to Photoshop to make the tech pack itself. I'm sure you know, but if you don't, tech packs are the actual PDF files of every single detail to make a new product from scratch. And when working with a new manufacturer, there are a few things that you need to include at the bare minimum. Let me show you the tech pack for the very first sample of these jeans. As you can see, it's 11 pages long. And bear with me because the design's a little different, but the principle remains the same. I chose the base color here to be the beige. Added rivets at each corner of the pockets. And an important thing is I added this like fading and distressing at the front for reference. A very important thing is that you can't send your manufacturer like multiple different pictures of a similar looking thing because they can only go off of one photo for the specific placement of details like rips or fading, etc. So what I did for the rips here is I just took a picture of a different pair of distressed denim and erased around the edges and just placed them where I wanted it to be. For the fading effect, I literally just took the distressed images themselves, added Gaussian blur, which is under filter, blur, Gaussian blur, cranked it up to like 10 or 15, and then changed the opacity mode to dissolve, which is right here, which creates this like dirty, speckled, like oil stain looking wash. For the most part, if you're doing everything overseas, they will be sourcing the fabrics for you. So you need to add the specific weight the composition, and the type of fabric you're looking for. Before going into this, I didn't know what plaid fabric I would be using. So as you can see, I said that it should be a cotton plaid blanket material with a reference of a vintage pair of like LL Bean's blanket line denim with a small range of the thickness and heaviness of the fabric. I included a reference for the welt pockets as well. And for specific things like graphics that you want to screen print, you need to include the actual art file separately, but it's also important to just include it here for reference. And because the back pockets are a little complicated, I separated each layer individually and explained not only the style of stitching, the color of the embroidery, but the dimensions of the pocket itself, and more references obviously. And here is a more in-depth explanation of the distressing I was going for, as well as the color of the paint splatters and the look of them as well. As you can see, my manufacturer did the paint splatters very accurately. An extremely important detail obviously is the dimensions and the sizing of the denim itself. For sizing, you will definitely be only making one sample, so I'd recommend finding a different pair of pants that fit you really well and finding these measurements at the very minimum. Waist, inseam, outseam, thigh width, knee width, leg opening, and the rise. A big caveat to this tech pack that I can't show you is the finished pattern for a pair of jeans I already made with the manufacturer beforehand. I'm not gonna sit here and explain to you for like an hour on how to make patterns because there are plenty of other tutorials on YouTube for you. But I'm here to tell you that you don't necessarily have to make patterns for your stuff. You can either pay someone else to do it for you, or if you're extra ballsy, you can try to trust your manufacturer to do everything for you, which almost never works out the first or second time because there will be always some issues with the fit, especially with the amount of ease at around the groin and crotch areas, which essentially makes it very uncomfortable to wear. But it can save a lot of time, especially if you don't know how to do it yourself. And I also highly recommend anyone to make their own custom tags like this, especially because I think that adding a screen print to the back of your waistband instead of an actual physical tag is just very cheap looking. So now you have a completed tech pack and you're ready to find some manufacturer to work with to produce your sample. For this, we're gonna go on Alibaba. In the big 2026, there is still a big stigma against manufacturing in China, which I've never understood. Some of the biggest brands that market themselves as luxury or second to luxury manufacture their products in high quality factories there. And with any given country, it entirely depends on the factory itself. There are plenty of made in LA or made in Italy brands like No Face Studios and K2 Studios that have so many quality control issues. Not to mention how long they take to ship, but that's a different story. Before starting, I'd highly recommend making your own separate business email because you will be sharing your business info and contact info and shipping info with your manufacturers and you want to seem as professional as possible. Now that you're done with that, you're going to go to the search bar and type in the keywords of what you're trying to make. So here we're going to search up baggy distressed denim, and before scrolling, we're going to select these few filters. First, the most important thing is trade assurance. This essentially makes it so that if the manufacturer is at fault for any quality control issues or shipping issues, you are eligible to receive some sort of refund. And one important thing is that as nice as some of these images look, like this one at the top left, for some reason 90% of factories here will just rip images off of other brands or other factories even. So you can't really just go off these images by themselves. But let's click this one for example. I can immediately recognize this from an Instagram brand called Uniform Co. So we need to tread with a little caution. And what you can see is that they have been in manufacture for 6 years, but only have one review. And because they're already ripping off images from other brands for their thumbnail, I would highly distrust this and look for something else. Let's click this for example. This company has over 154 reviews across all their products, and you can see that the lowest minimum order quantity here is 50. And as small as your brand might start off as, you're not going to be able to work with manufacturers that will go much lower than that for not egregious prices. Let's say we go with this manufacturer to start sampling. We have to send them an inquiry. And I don't mean clicking this orange button here, but instead I mean to chat now. And I recommend this because if you do the other option, you'll be spammed by like 20 other manufacturers that specialize in a similar thing, kind of begging you to give them a chance, which is very annoying. It looks like I already kind of contacted this person before, but this is generally the message you want to include. You want to ask for not only the sample cost, but also the bulk cost for 50 pieces, the turnaround time for each, which is basically how long it'll take for them to complete the products. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is asking them for previous examples of their work. So for these, you would ask them for other pairs of jeans that they made, such as raw selvage denim, baggy denim. And by going through the photos they send you, you'll be able to gauge whether or not you actually want to work with them and if they seem high quality. And after working on it for maybe a month or two, and going back and forth with them on Alibaba, you'll eventually end up with a sample like this. And no matter how good it turns out, every first sample has flaws. And all those flaws need to be directly addressed through a revisions tech pack of some sorts. So you'll repeat the process from earlier and just send them the revisions that need to be made. And eventually you'll get to the point where you place a bulk order, aka the most scary part of this whole thing. You can always negotiate the price with your manufacturer, but because you're working with low MOQs, there's a high likelihood that it won't really go down that much. And an important thing is that you create a manufacturing agreement or contract. This is the one part of this entire process where I'll use AI. You can use Claude or ChatGPT or whatever to create a draft of a contract that you can use to protect yourself with refunds if there are any quality control issues down the line. There are a few things that you need to include for sure. Measurement tolerance, which is how far the sizing can deviate from the indicated size chart. And you should be realistic by not making it like 1 millimeter, because that's just like human error. About 1 centimeter or so is pretty realistic. Produced by date, which is the last date that they'll finish production, and certain quality measures like making sure the zippers glide smoothly, adding bar tags to pockets so they don't rip, making sure that the bulk production matches the sample, and you can sign it with like Adobe Acrobat and send it over to them for them to sign. And finally, you need a freight forwarder. This will save you a lot of money on bulk order shipping, because as you can imagine, shipping 5 boxes of very heavy clothes can be a lot of money. If you're lucky, the manufacturer you work with will already have a freight forwarder they work with to lower costs, but otherwise you can directly look them up on Alibaba. And how it works is that they're responsible for the final production shipment on the manufacturer's behalf. And finally, we are done with the product aspect of this. This whole time, it's important that you are using social media for marketing. You should be showing off your product and your design process, your journey with the clothing brand, making miscellaneous videos about fashion and the community. Because we are in an amazing era where organic content gets seen by so many people and they pay attention to you and your clothes for free. If the clothes are good and if your content has decent quality. You don't need a professional setup or a high-end camera, just your phone. Have photo shoots, get product photography done, and you're one step closer to achieving your dreams. And we're in this together. I've been making short form content on TikTok and Instagram for the past year or so, but I thought that making YouTube videos too would be really cool. My socials and my brand socials are in the description, so drop a follow and I'll catch you next time.